Ah, shit, I gotta do the intro. Hey, who's ever watching, remember to drink responsibly. I don't want to get demonetized. Okay, I'm Bat Tracy for Punk Rock Blues, and this is Drunk Explained, where I get drunk and I talk about a movie while I'm drunk and usually make fun of it. I think we have a fun one today. I said that last time, but everything's fun, ain't it? Okay, today this is Godzilla from 1998. Starring Matthew Broderick and other people. Gene Reno and Hank Azaria. It's got 3 people from The Simpsons in it. I learned that from Mr. Sunday Movies, so don't think it's my fact. It's not. It's got Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer, and Nancy Cartwright also has a cameo. 2 of them I could have told you, but the Nancy Cartwright thing, I didn't even know what she looked like. I'm a little bit tipsy already. Oh, also, I think this is the first video I've done with this thing over my eye. Pretty funny story. I got a boo-boo because I hit my face into some bricks letting Bella outside. It was a whole thing. Okay. Also, it's very hot in my room, so if you hear a noise on this side of the speaker, that's a fan that I have blowing at me because it is goddamn hot. Yeah. Also, I have a light shining on me, which is also very hot, so 2 things. And I got a little cooler filled with these things. Isn't that nice? Okay, so Godzilla from 1998 stars Matthew Broderick. Oh, goddamn, I said that already. Okay, so this is directed by Roland Emmerich and is produced by Dean Devlin. And I think Dean Devlin's an idiot. This does not make good movies. Roland Emmerich's made like 2 movies that I enjoy, and most of his other things are just bad. First off, this is the second Roland Emmerich movie I've done on Drunk Explained. The first I did was Independence Day. He also did that. Second, I loved this movie as a kid. I really, really liked it. And if you liked it as a kid, never go back. It's so bad. It's so awful. So yeah, if you like this movie, maybe don't watch this because I'm going to make fun of it a lot. Okay. So the movie opens like most Godzilla movies do. I'm guessing, because I haven't seen a single Japanese one. I've seen the 2 American versions. Opens with the test footage of them testing nukes, or nuclear missiles, or whatever you want to call them. And it's heavily implied that Godzilla is an iguana who got mutated from nuclear radiation. Because there's a lot of clips of iguanas and an iguana, and then the fucking bomb goes like this and whatever. But there's also clips of a Komodo dragon. So is Godzilla a Komodo or is he an iguana? This is just things I noticed. But it's most likely an iguana, which is stupid. Because if you know anything about Godzilla, Godzilla is a protector of Earth, and it's been around like fucking centuries. It's older than humans. I'm gonna say she. Godzilla's a she. That pisses a lot of people off because people want it to be a dude, but I think Godzilla's a she. Also, I'm probably just gonna say Zilla most of the time. Anywho, so then like the movie opens after the iguana nuke like credits. An Asian man on a boat, and he's eating noodles, and he's watching like sumo wrestling on the television. And oh yeah, we get some full frontal fucking sumo ass. So an alarm goes off, and like he's watching the radar, and like a blips. There's a little blip, like bloop, blip, 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 and the boat gets knocked. And they're like, what is that? And then there's another Asian man on this boat. It's all Asian men, but I thought this was kind of stereotypical. There's an Asian man with a full Fu Manchu facial hair, and I was like, come on, man, you know? So like the boat gets knocked, and I thought this was a really dumb visual. This dude like falls on the ground, and then the boat gets knocked, and the shell knocks over, and all these knives fall, and they like land outside his head, like in a perfect circle, and he's like, ah. stupid joke. It's stupid. It's not funny or anything. It's just a thing that sometimes people put in movies that it's supposed to be a joke, but it's not. So then, Zilla claws through the boat, like from the side, and water starts spraying everywhere, and they're like, oh my god, we're gonna die. Anyway, the boat tips over, and we see the tail of Godzilla. That's the first thing you see from Zilla. This is the tail. It goes like, whoosh. Then we cut to, it's raining, and Matthew Broderick is driving in the rain while singing the song Singing in the Rain. I'm singing in the rain, singing in the rain. And that's supposed to be a funny LOL moment because it's kind of like a joke, except it's not. It's just stupid. He's like playing in the rain, digging around in the dirt for some worms, but instead of digging, he uses these like probe things and pushes them in the ground and electrocutes the ground, and like the worms come up. Then a helicopter lands behind him, and all these guys with guns get out, and he's like, looks over his shoulder, like, what? And Matthew Broderick's guy, his character's name is Nick Tatopoulos. It's a running gag in the movie that people can't say his last name, even though it's only like 4 syllables. Tatopoulos. I'll spell it right here. Tatopoulos. Pretty easy to say.
Dr. Nico Tatopoulos. It's Tatopoulos.
Research team member Dr. Nick Papadopoulos.
How did Mrs. Tatopoulos handle that?
It's Tatopoulos.
Dr. Nico Papadopoulos?
It's Tatopoulos. Whatever.
He's also named after, Nick Tatopoulos from this movie is named after Patrick Tatopoulos, who is the guy who created the design for Zilla in this movie. There's a fun fact for you.
Godzilla wasn't very, very bad ever back then. It was just a big monster. He crashed building, but you didn't feel he really hurt people. He was just like, it's too big, he had to crash on everything, you know.
There was like, it cuts back to Gene Reno. Well, he's like pretending to be a doctor or whatever, and there's one survivor from the boat, and he's like, it was Godzilla. It was Godzilla. That was a bad accent. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, he's like, it's Godzilla. But he's saying Gojira. They all think he's saying Godzilla. It's a whole thing later. Well, anyway, we go back to Matthew Broderick, and the army general guy, he's like, you're the worm guy, right? And Nick Tatopoulos, Matthew Broderick, I'm probably going to say that for the movie, for this video. Matthew Broderick goes into this long, stupid, boring science talk where he just says a bunch of big words, and they don't really mean much. And he's explaining worm stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, you're the worm guy. Basically the general's then like, yeah, we need you to look at the sample. And Matthew Broderick's like, where's the sample? Where is it? I don't see the sample. Where is it? And the camera zooms out, and he's standing in the footprint that Zilla made in the ground.
Here's your sample. Study it.
What sample?
You're standing in it.
I don't see it.
Pretty classic shot from this shitty movie, actually. There's a few... Listen, this movie's not all terrible. There's some good moments in here, and I'll say when they're good. But generally, this is a bad movie. So bad. The standing in the footprint, I think that's a cool visual, because it looks pretty good when they zoom out. There's like shots of them, they're in like a bunch of helicopters like flying over like an open plains area, and you see all the footprints. Looks pretty cool, actually. But there's a lot of stupid dialogue in this movie, and I've written some down. This is one of them. Matthew Broderick says, I was in a footprint. It's like, duh, we fucking saw that. We're watching the goddamn movie. We're not idiots. We can see that he was standing clearly in a footprint. He didn't need to say that. It's a stupid line of dialogue. Then we cut to, it's like a army base. It's an army base, okay? And there's like army people in it, and fucking Matthew Broderick's there, and there's this other chick. Oh, I wish I knew her name. I'll put it right here, maybe. Her character name, I can't even remember her character name. She's the redhead. She's immediately like, with her sunglasses, like, oh, Matthew Broderick's fucking hot. They're like, looking at some screen, talking about stuff or whatever, and this one army dude's like, oh, have you met the worm guy? And the one things like the other army privates, like, looks at him and he goes, "Achoo!" Sneezes in his hand, and he's like, "Hi, worm guy." And Matthew Broderick, it's like, oh, that's another one of those would-be jokes, I guess. Then we cut to New York City, baby. Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby, Vegas.
No, we're in New York City, NYC, Big Apple. So much goddamn rain in this movie. It's always fucking raining. Every goddamn shot in this movie, it's raining. It's very weird. They even make a mention of it. Like, one character's like, well, we're in the middle of the longest rain shower in New York City history. The reason they did it is because the CGI in this movie is bad. And with bad CGI, you can kind of hide it a little bit if you could just cover it in fucking rain. But you know what? You can't. Not in this. And we'll get to it. So we go to Audrey. She's a news lady. And she's Matthew Broderick's old girlfriend. Her name's Audrey. That's the character. Her boss is played by Harry Shearer from The Simpsons. And I knew his voice instantly, but I couldn't tell you what character he plays, because I don't like The Simpsons. But I knew his voice. He sexually harasses Audrey hella hard. This dude is fucking forceful about it. Like, I was like, what is this? This is so bad. I know it's 98, but that's not that long ago. It was awful. It's like 20 years. So, one of the lines, she's like, oh, I got an inside scoop on this story or whatever. And he goes, please, you don't know how to tell the news. You're just a pretty face or something like that. And it's like, my God, this dude's fucking awful. He's such a dick too, because like, there's a scene where he's about to go on to like do the news for the night with like his, lady anchor. And she's like this much taller than him. So like, he just fucking pushes himself up so he's taller than her for the newscast. It's like, that's a dick move, because you just inferiority complex. Can't talk. And then to the shredded boat we go. We're going to the shredded boat. The boat that the movie opens with. Come on, guys, we talked about this. Matthew Broderick and the army people and the redhead. They're like at the shredded boat that Godzilla ripped up. And it's like rips on the side of it and it's all torn up and whatnot. Gene Reno shows up. And he's like, what did this? Because we're all wondering. It's not like the movie's called Godzilla. I'm kidding. There can be some mystery in a movie. I'm just being a hater. Then we cut to the middle of the ocean. It's raining. It's always raining. There's these 2 fishing boats in the middle of the ocean. They say it's 3 in the movie, but if you watch it, there's only 2. I don't know what's up with that. Is there a third that they just don't show? Because there's only 2. I checked. I rewound and checked. Because I heard the line where he's like, yeah, 3 boats. And I was like, there was only 2. It's only 2. These boats, they're like fishing boats. So they got the nets in the water and whatnot. Well, the nets get stopped. And the one fisherman's like, hey, mate, the fucking nets are full. We probably got us some fish. Well, then the nets start pulling underwater. And the boats start getting pulled. Then we hear Godzilla's roar for the first time. The roar. Yeah. I'm not gonna do it, because I'll feel like a fool. So we hear the roar for the first time, and then the boats, they sink. It cuts to the army, and this is the line where he's like, yeah, 3 boats got taken down in the fucking ocean. No, it is 2 goddamn boats. I checked. So then Matthew Broderick, he's like, yeah, it's all about the radiation. That's what we're here to learn about. And then he goes into this really long-winded, boring-ass science talk. Oh, I thought this was a real LOL moment too. When it cuts to New York again, or for the first time, I think. Yeah, the first time. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. My notes are crazy. Anyway, so the whole movie, every time it switches to a different place, it labels it at the bottom, like the place it is. But for New York, when it goes there, it just says the city that never sleeps. And I thought that was hilarious, because like, if you're in America, I'm sure you know that reference, like New York, the city that never sleeps. Even though, as we all know, everybody sleeps. But if you're outside of America, do you know that reference? The city that never sleeps? Genuinely curious, because I think it's dumb to put that in your movie. Also, In this movie, someone calls New York a dog-eat-dog city, and if New York City is a city where dogs eat dogs, I'm never bringing Bella there. I hope you laughed at that, because that's a joke from George of the Jungle. Haha. Anyway, so, on the TV news, the news from the TV, Audrey sees Matthew Broderick on the TV, and she's like, oh my god, that's Nick Tatopoulos. I used to date him in college. And they're like, oh, Audrey, you got the hots for him. And she's like, no, that was like 8 years ago. Come on. Okay, this is actually a sequence I really liked. It cuts to like an old guy on a pier. It's pouring rain. As I said, it's continuously raining in this movie. And there's these two guys. They're just standing on the dock for no reason. And then this really old guy who looks like Harry Dean Stanton. And I wanted to go back and look at if it was him, but I forgot to check. So, I don't know. Well, anyway, so he's walking on the pier with his, his fishing gear and his hat and his tackle box and whatnot. And the two guys are like, the only thing you're going to catch out there is a cold. Ha 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 ha.
The only thing you want to catch is a cold.
So he goes on the pier, and he throws his line, and he gets a bite, and he's like, I got a bite. I got a bite. And then it's a big one. He's like, oh, it's a big one. He starts reeling, well, then flies. Then we see the dorsal fins of Godzilla coming out of the water, and he's like, oh my god, and starts to run, Yeah, this is some fucking awful green screen when he's running on the pier. A very cool scene. I'm going to put the scene in right after I say this, because this is one of those classic scenes I'm talking about. There's some good moments in this movie. But the CGI, the green screen, the composite, is fucking awful. Like, if you watch his feet when he's running, they don't match up with, like, the boards of the plank at all. Or, the pier, or the planks that are, like, shooting out. Because it is very clearly just a guy running on a green screen, and then they just pasted him over top of this video, because it looks so bad. It's so bad. I gotta get another drink. Anyway, so after the guy runs off the pier, we see Godzilla's foot, because he's like walking into the city. And the foot, the CGI is so bad. God, that's just a recurring theme throughout this whole movie. Like, I loved this movie as a kid, and while watching, I understood why I liked it as a kid. Because as a kid, it's fun. But my God, the CGI is awful. Like, even for 1998, it's so bad. Truly atrocious. Zilla tears shit up, knocks some buildings, tears up some cars, whatever. I thought this was really funny too. The mayor of New York, his name is Mayor Ebert, and his partner in crime is Gene, which is, it's a play on fucking Ebert and Roper. Siskel, sorry. Ebert and Siskel? It's Gene Siskel? I think so. They gave, whatever Roland Emmerich's last movies were, Stargate and Independence Day, they gave him bad reviews, so they made fun of him in this movie. So, as Godzilla's coming into the city, cars and, like, the ground and, like, water are, like, doing the bumping thing, like the... That is straight out of Jurassic Park. They literally... There's so many shots in this movie that they just went, whoop, from Jurassic Park. It is so silly. This is another part that I thought was kind of dumb, because it's not really dumb, but it's just more of like a cliche in these type of monster movies, where Godzilla's coming down the street towards people, and so like everyone's running away like, ah, ah, ah. And there's always just one guy who he's running, and he just stops, and he's just standing, just like, and it's like, what are you doing? Just run. You're a fucking idiot. This is another one of those moments that's supposed to be funny. I don't think it's that funny because the guy who's in it is just a fucking dick. It's Harry Shearer again. He's the news anchor. He's like on the phone trying to get like a hold of some news story that he's going to do for the front, the main news story or whatever of the night. And this is the Nancy Cartwright cameo, where she's like, Anchor Dick. I don't remember his character, but she's like, Anchor Dick, look out the window. Your story just walked past the window. Because Godzilla walked by the window, right? And he's on the phone. And he turns and he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. There's nothing there. And he goes back to the phone, and then you see the tail pass again. And it's supposed to be funny because it's like, oh, he didn't see it, but it's not good.
I mean, what's our lead? Rain, again. Sorry, I just don't give a rat's ass about a war in some country whose name I can't even pronounce.
Sir, I think your story just walked by the window.
What?
Alright, then we cut back to Audrey and Hank Azaria, who's like her news camera dude, and her, Azaria's wife or girlfriend or whatever in this movie. She's not in it a lot, so I'm not going to have to mention her. They're like in a cafe or something, and then the tail goes by, and they're like, oh shit. And then, I singled this out, because it made me go, whoa, that's not okay. I know it's the 90s, I guess, but still. There's a part where Audrey calls Hank Azaria a retard, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. So then, like, Godzilla's walking by the cafe or whatever that they're in, and there's that another classic shot where Hank Azaria is standing there with the camera, and he looks up, and Godzilla's walking, and Godzilla's foot comes down, and oh shit, Hank Azaria got squashed? Nope, he was right between the toes. Oh yeah, that classic shot. They end up evacuating New York. Anyway, Zilla disappears. They can't find him. Or her. And everybody's like, how's a fucking lizard that big to hide? It's probably in the river. It probably went back in the river and swams. But then they're like talking about it. He's probably in the river. And Nick Totopoulos, he's like, no, he can't possibly be in the river. A thing that big, it's in the middle of the city, hiding behind some buildings or whatever. Yeah. Cuts to a news clip, and it's showing like clips of Godzilla that have been filmed, you know, as like the news story. And these are so fucking bad. Like, the clips they have, this must be a parody of what I'm about to describe, because it's uncanny. Basically, the clips that they have of Zilla on the news, they're worse than, like, the clips of Bigfoot you see on, like, the internet or whatever. Like, it's worse than that. It's like fucking CCTV footage. It looks awful. Anyway, I thought this was a really dumb joke, but it's kind of funny. Audrey and her friend, Hank Azaria's wife or whatever, and Hank Azaria, they're, like, in the cafe, and they're, like, talking about going back to their place, and she says, don't worry, Hank Azaria, Audrey can sleep at our place. And he goes, oh, a threesome? I'd love that. And it's like, oh, it made me chuckle a little bit. It's kind of a dumb joke, but it's like, classic threesome joke, you know? Then Audrey goes to Harry Shearer. I think it's Harry. I don't know why I said Henry. And she's like, hey, listen, that dude, Nick Totopoulos, who's working with the army about Godzilla, I used to bone him. Okay? I have an inside source on this story. I can figure out all the ins and the outs of Zilla. And Harry Shearer's like, please, lady, this is where the big boys play. And it's like, dude, you're so fucking misogynistic. You're an asshole. Well, anyway, she steals his work badges, his press badge, so she can sneak into a place later. Yeah. Oh, also, I thought this was really weird. There's a line where they talk about, this is the most damage New York City's had since the World Trade Bombing. And I was like, wait, when was that? The World Trade Center got bombed? Like 9/11, of course. But this movie came out in 1998. So, it's just a weird line. I didn't Google it or anything. Maybe I should have. But yeah, I thought it was weird. So then, Gene Reno, and he like hugs the mayor, Mayor Ebert, and he plants a bug on him. So that they can, Gene Reno, he's a French guy. He's part of the French Secret Service in this movie. I didn't want to spoil it, but that's what it is. Yeah, so he plants a bug on him, so him and his French friends, They're sitting in a dingy hotel room listening to the mayor. Mayor Ebert, he's blowing a gasket. He's totally against evacuating New York because he's like, this is gonna make my fucking polls go down, and I'm up for re-election, and you know, if this doesn't work, I'm fucking done, and blah. Like, dude, there's a giant fucking lizard attacking your city. Chill out, man. Like, you got bigger problems than re-election right now, alright? So then they're like, oh, we should go to the subway or whatever. I don't remember the exact reason. They go down into the subway. It's all torn up because Godzilla has burrowed through into the ground, you know, like a lizard does. Lizards burrow into the ground. Or iguanas. Do they? I don't think so. I don't know much about iguanas. Nick Tatopoulos, Matthew Broderick, he comes up with a plan to draw Godzilla out into the open. Yeah, we'll get to that. Anyway, it cuts back to the French dudes in their hotel room. And I thought this was kind of a funny joke, too. They're all, like, talking about coffee or whatever and how shit American coffee is. And he's like, here's your coffee, boss. And Gene Reno takes a sip and he's like, pfft, what is this coffee shit? And he's like, I thought you said this was French coffee. Or French roast. And the other French guy's like, yeah, it is French roast. And he holds up, like, an American coffee brand. It just says French roast flavor on it. And I don't know. I don't like coffee at all. So it's all shit to me. But I thought that was really funny.
You said this was French roast.
Then we get introduced to Nick Tatopoulos' plan of just a big old pile of fish in Central Park. Big old pile of fish. Just like... Then Nick Tatopoulos says, that's a lot of fish.
That's a lot of fish.
Yeah, we know. We saw it. It's another one of those stupid lines. But then, it's not really working. So then Matthew Broderick's like, hey, you army dicks, get over here. Let's open up these manhole covers so that Godzilla can sniff it. He can smell all that fish. Fishy. But yeah, so like, and this is such a predictability thing. So each manhole that they open, it's a two-person job. Two people open all the manholes. But then the one time that Matthew Broderick goes to open a manhole alone, of course you hear like sniffing and grunting and shit. Oh, and when Zilla roars, he like spits up something out of the manhole cover and it like lands on Matthew Broderick, and he's like, okay, so then, yeah, so it spits up over Matthew Broderick on the manhole cover. And the ground, you know, opens up, splits underneath Matthew Broderick's legs, right in the middle of him. Zilla comes out of the ground, like just pops up out of the ground. And it's more awful compositing, where you can clearly see that Matthew Broderick is on just a green screen, just running away from the ground that's splitting up. Because you can just watch the feet. You just look at the people's feet. It's so noticeable. This is the first time we see Godzilla fully in this movie. And he looks bad. He looks so bad. I'll put a clip. I'm sure I will. And what's weird about this movie, too, Godzilla only has 11 minutes screen time in the whole movie. And the movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes maybe. It's a long movie. 11 minutes screen time. And you're probably like, it's not a lot. But here's the thing. In Godzilla 2014, Godzilla only has 8 minutes of screen time. Think about that. And if you're like, wow, that's even less. Well, Anthony Hopkins, he won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in Silence of the Lambs, which he only has like 16 minutes screen time in the entire movie. Wow. The more you know. Then Matthew Broderick like takes a picture of Godzilla, and Godzilla gets right up in his face like Godzilla goes and eats the pile of fish, you know, just eats the pile of fish. And there's one army private who says, I think we need some bigger guns. No, man, no, you need a bigger box. Oh.
I think I need a bigger box.
So as he's eating the fish, they shoot some missiles at Godzilla, and Godzilla, this is the funniest thing. My God. This is how you know this is a bad movie. Godzilla literally looks at the missiles, and he dodges them. He's like... And they hit a building behind him. They blow up the Daily Bugle, man. You know, the triangle building? I can't remember what it's called in real life, but it's a fucking Daily Bugle from the Spider-Man movies. Blow it up. What would J.K. Simmons have to say about that? He'd probably fucking flip out.
Dumbest idea you've ever had. You have had some doozies.
Blood pressure.
Matthew Broderick then, he almost has a statue fall on him, and it's a real close one. It's kind of like that thing with the knives earlier, where the statue falls on him, but it falls like face first, and so it's like he's looking at the face of the statue, and he's like, ah. Then Zilla shoots fire, like, it's bad in this movie. It looks bad, but it's kind of cool, even though, as we all know, Zilla doesn't shoot fire. He has atomic breath. It's nuclear. It's radiation powered. It's not fucking fire. Well, anyway, this is a pretty cool shot too. We get a first-person view of like a pilot in the cockpit of a helicopter chasing after Godzilla as he's weaving through buildings. Actually looks pretty cool. Then they shoot some more missiles at Zilla, and they blow up the Chrysler building. A lot of damage to New York. That's what Roland Emmerich's all about. Destroying cities. Then we cut to, it's like in the street, and there's like a couple looters who are like looting TVs. Because that's what looters do, they loot. And one looter's like, I got a bad feeling about this. And then Zilla stomps on them and steps on them and squashes them. One of those classic jokes from the 90s. So then the helicopters keep shooting at Zilla as he's running through the city, and then Zilla attacks and fights back against the helicopters. And there's one, it's bad CGI, but it looks pretty cool, where Zilla uses his tail and smashes one of them into a building. Thought that was kind of cool. Then there's also another one where he comes up behind the helicopter and he eats it. Oh yeah, because they're like, oh, he's lost and whatever. And then he goes through, he like walks through a building.
Echo 2, ready.
Well, he comes from behind the helicopter, and the helicopter's like, oh my god, and he's chasing the helicopter. And then we get a first-person perspective of him chasing the helicopter. They kind of flipped it. But then the helicopter's like, whew, I thought I lost him. Then Godzilla comes from underneath and eats that helicopter. Eats it. Ugh. Then it cuts to Mayor Ebert, and he's like, the fucking army caused more goddamn damage than fucking Godzilla did.
You've caused more damage than that goddamn thing did!
All right, Mayor, calm down. Just have some candy.
Well, so then Godzilla roars in the lightning. The lightning goes behind him as he roars, and one of the army guys is like, we did nothing to him. And Matthew Broderick goes, we fed him. Pretty good line. Pretty good line. Stupid dialogue in this movie, that's a pretty good line. Matthew Broderick's in a store buying pregnancy tests because he's like, he got a piece of fucking Godzilla goo off of like a piece of rubble or something, and he has this hunch that Godzilla could be pregnant, which is why I say Godzilla's a female. But you can debate it down below if you want. Audrey, she's back in this picture. She catches Nick buying all these pregnancy tests at this store. It's a real LOL moment, because what's a dude need pregnancy tests for?
You serious?
And this part I think adds a layer to this movie that is so unneeded, and it just pads out the runtime, even though it doesn't need it, because it's over 2 hours. But it's like more love drama between him and Audrey, like, oh, we dated 8 years ago, but we never got over it, or whatever. You want a cup of tea? Basically, during this cup of tea, Audrey uses Nick for so much exposition. It's such an exposition dump. He's like talking about radiation and iguanas and we could have caused this and how do we stop it? And blah 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 blah. He takes the glob of goo and he's testing it. Turns out, as Matthew Broderick says it,
He's pregnant.
he's pregnant, and they think that Godzilla is nesting in New York. That's why he came to New York, to build a nest in New York to hatch his babies. And Matthew Broderick's like, they could all be born pregnant. Maybe we have a new species on our hands. Whoa, whoa, wee, wah.
Whoa, very nice.
We cut to an army team down in the sewers, like checking if Godzilla's down there or whatever. And they're going through a drainage pipe, and the one guy's like, is anything down there? And the other guy goes, no, it's just a dead end. Right as he turns around, the dead end, of course, it's Godzilla, and he opens his eye and looks at the team and moves a little bit, and then the guy looks back and it's nothing, and then moves again.
Anything? Nah. Nothing at all.
And it's just awful composites. But anyway, then Audrey steals some, like, footage of Godzilla from Nick. She steals the footage of, like, the guy from the boat. They come up with a plan to get, they want to get Zilla into Central Park so they can blow him up. Because they think, well, Matthew Broderick knows it. Well, he doesn't know it yet, but they all think. Matthew Broderick's like, listen, Godzilla's laying eggs, and that's a fucking big problem. Because we'll have a new species of 1,000-foot lizards roaming around the city. It's bad news, bitches. This is something I don't know if I mentioned earlier. Godzilla changes scale throughout the whole movie. Like, he's different sizes. It's very weird. Like, sometimes he's taller than buildings, other times he's shorter than buildings. Matthew Broderick goes to the army and he's like, tries to explain to them, like, listen, Godzilla's laying eggs, we need to stop it, because these eggs will hatch super fast, because they're radiated. It's all about the radiation. The French guys, with Jean Reno, of course, are listening to the army. They're all watching the news, and the footage that Audrey stole from Nick is being shown on the news, of the dude saying, Gojira. So then the army gets suspicious of Nick, and they're like, you're a fucking whistleblower, you bitch. And he's like, what? I would never. Turns out that Audrey, she stole the footage from him, and he's like, oh, geez, Audrey took it from me. And the army fires him. Anyway, then Audrey catches up to Nick, and she's like, apologizes, and he's like, screw you. And then he hails a taxi. And I thought this was kind of silly, because a taxi stops right away. And I was like, wait a second, didn't they evacuate the city? How's he getting a taxi when there's no fucking taxis in town because they evacuated? The taxi driver turns out to be Jean Reno. And he tells him, he's like, Matthew Broderick to Topless, listen, I'm Jean Reno, and the army isn't looking for the nest. You told them to look for the nest before you got fired. They're not doing it. They don't think it's real. It's baloney sandwich, bitch. He brings Nick to this warehouse filled with guns and French dudes, and he's like, hey, us are the French Secret Service. We know things. So Nick, Matthew Broderick, he joins up with Jean Reno and the French Secret Service to bring down Zilla. Yeah. So then, yeah, Audrey and Hank Azaria, they sneak back into New York City, chasing after Nick and the French dudes, because Hank Azaria was spying on them in the warehouse. They're trying to get in the city, but it's blockaded by army dudes, and since they're all French, So Gene Reno and all the French dudes are chewing gum, and Matthew Broderick's like, "Why are you chewing gum?" And Gene Reno goes, "Chewing gum makes you look American."
What's with the chewing gum?
Makes us look more American.
Oh, really?
Oh, and then also when when they're trying to get into the army base, the army like asks Hank Azaria why he's not talking or something, and not Hank Azaria, sorry, Gene Reno, he does this really, I don't want to say it's awful because it's pretty good, but he does a really weird Elvis impersonation where he's like, thank you very much.
Keep it moving. Oh, thank you very much.
So they fill Central Park with fish again, and there's some really bad subway green screen. They walk into the subway to where they find in the subway looking for Zilla, and then Zilla shows up like in the subway, like busts through some walls or whatever, and it's the worst CGI ever. It looks atrocious. Like Zilla doesn't even look finished. He's like a different color, and he's just off, and it's so bad.
Animal, come on!
So then Zilla crawls out past them through the subway, like to escape the subway. And this is the second time that Hank Azaria is spared, because they like almost get squished, but then he doesn't. Then Mayor Ebert's like, oh, they're in Central Park again because he's eating the fish. And he's like, don't fire at the buildings. Whatever you do, don't shoot the buildings. And what do? They just fire at the buildings. They shoot all the goddamn buildings down. Fucking army. Ruining everything.
Damn it! Fire! Fire!
This was a really silly part. Zilla takes off, and they give chase, and there's like 30 fucking helicopters just weaving between buildings and shit in the fucking city, and it looks so silly. Then this is another really cool moment. I think this is the best moment in the entire movie. Godzilla is running towards the water, and then does a running dive into the river. It looks super sweet. Cuts to underwater submarine, and they're watching Godzilla show up on the blip. They fire some torpedoes at Zilla. Of course, he dodges them, because Zilla does not fuck around with no missiles. But then the torpedoes are they're locked onto him. So what does he do? He keeps swimming. He goes underneath the submarine, and he leads the torpedoes to the submarine, and Zilla comes back out of the water, and they shoot a missile into him, and it hits him, and he sinks into the water. And one guy says, "Direct hit." Then back in the subway, Nick and the French dudes, they find 100,000 of eggs in Madison Square Garden. There's hundreds of eggs. Whoa, man, there's so many. And an egg hatches in front of them, and the baby Zillas look so bad. I think the reason they put the baby Zillas in here is to capitalize on the raptors from Jurassic Park. They look awful. It's the worst CGI in the whole movie. The French guys, they start blowing up the baby Zillas. But then the baby Zillas start eating people, like in Jurassic Park. There's clips of them opening doors and camera shots of them jumping up on people with their back legs and cooking them down and biting their face off. It's straight out, just look at a velociraptor from Jurassic Park, look at a baby Zilla from Godzilla. Then some baby Zillas, they chase after Matthew Broderick. He gets on the elevator just as the baby dinosaur gets his nose through the door, and he has to kick the door out so it shuts. And also, if you're curious, it was an Otis elevator. I checked, it was Otis. Bella, be quiet. he presses like the button, and he has to wait on the elevator as it goes up, and then it beeps, and the doors open, and as the doors open, it's a bunch of like baby Zillas eating popcorn or whatever, and it cuts back to Matthew Broderick, and he's like, "Oops, wrong floor."
Wrong floor.
It's like, oh, that's a funny joke, I guess, you know? LOL. So then basically Audrey and Hank Azaria, they're climbing in the vents to get out, and Jean Reno and Matthew Broderick meet up with them in the vents. They're just so dumb, because Hank Azaria's character is the worst in this movie. He's so goddamn awful, because every time he's being chased or Godzilla's coming or anything, he just stops and waits. And they get so close to him. Like this scene where he's trying to escape and he drops the camera and they're like easily running at him. And he's like, "Oh my god, my camera." And he goes to reach in and one bites the camera and he runs off. And it's like, dude, just fucking run. These things are eating people. You just watched them eat a person in front of you, man. Like, quit being so dumb. Then they find a newsroom in the Madison Square Garden. And basically they hack the news thing. Well, they don't hack it, but they're like, oh, there's a really funny line where she's like, "The network's on the internet." The 90s, when no one understood the internet. But yeah, they call one of the news people and they're like, "You gotta get us on the TV live, blah, blah, blah." They show all the eggs on live TV and they're like, "You gotta bomb the fucking garden." Jean Reno, Matthew Broderick, Audrey, and Azaria, they're trying to escape the garden. They're running, and the baby Zillas are chasing after them, and Matthew Broderick throws some gumballs on the ground, and the baby Zillas slip on the gumballs and fall. Kind of like Home Alone style. Oh, and this whole time, anytime they walk anywhere, the Zillas are right there, like the baby Zillas, to attack them or eat them or whatever. They're like right there. But then as they're trying to escape, Jean Reno just shoots some chandeliers down and they fall, and all the Zillas like jump back and they're like, whoa, and they just walk through them like it's no big deal.
Let's go!
They bomb the Madison Square Garden, top down, blows up. Kind of looks really similar to the White House being exploded in Independence Day. Like, I know it's the same director, but like, they look so similar. I was like, does he just take his own shot? You know, it's very weird. Broderick and Audrey, they kiss. Hooray, movie over. Because if you recall, Godzilla got missiled. He sunk to the ocean. They blew up all the baby Zillas, right? So that's the movie over. Nope. Zilla's back, baby. Hey, he's back. Zilla shows up and like looks around the rubble and sees all the baby Zillas dead. He's like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna kill people." The Matthew Broderick's like, "He looks angry."
He looks angry.
So also, I feel like this is the part where it's most obvious that Godzilla changes size. Then he starts chasing after the team, and it's such bad screen running. Like, any shot of them running in this movie is just awful. Then they get into the taxi, and it's Car Chase City, that's the name of the game. Car Chase City, that's the name of the game. Taxi, it's being chased by Godzilla. It's eerily reminiscent of the Jeep from Jurassic Park.
He's getting larger!
Must go faster.
And the taxi, they like drive off Zilla's foot and do this sick jump and land and everything. They drive through his mouth, and the taxi like turns, and Godzilla like falls down. Godzilla shoots fire at the taxi. Taxi tries to drive through a tunnel, but the tunnels have all been blocked off. That was something that happened earlier. I forgot to mention. They block all the tunnels off, so Godzilla can't go through them. You know, he can burrow through a fucking city. They think some concrete's gonna stop him. Godzilla tries to like crawl through the tunnel to get them. They're like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" And Matthew Broderick's like, "Turn the lights off." And they turn the lights off. And he's like, does this thing have high beams? And Gene Reno's like, yeah. They drive at Godzilla, and then they flash the high beams. Godzilla's like, ah, my eyes. And they drive out under him. Matthew Broderick contacts the army on the taxi CB radio, and he's like, we're gonna lead Zilla to a bridge, the nearest bridge. We're gonna lead him to it. They drive to the Brooklyn Bridge, where Godzilla picks the taxi off the bridge, and the taxi's like in Godzilla's mouth. And it's another one of those stupid dialogue lines where Hank Azaria says, we're in his mouth.
In his mouth!
They use some cables or whatever. They electrocute Godzilla's mouth, and he roars. They drive out. Zilla on the bridge is really cool, where Godzilla like climbs to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge, and he's like perched on it. It looks pretty cool. It's bad CGI, but it's a cool shot. I like the visual. You know, they're shooting missiles at Godzilla, the Army Air Forces, and Godzilla gets caught in the cables on the bridge, like the suspension cables, and they're like, light him up! Launch a bunch of fucking missiles at him. Zilla is killed. He falls onto the bridge, lands on the taxi. Matthew Broderick looks right at Godzilla. Godzilla looks at him. Shut up, Bella. And Godzilla closes his eye and dies. And everybody cheers. The monster is dead. Even though Godzilla's a protector, man. That's the thing this movie's got wrong. Godzilla's a protector. So then Mayor Ebert and Gene, they break up or whatever. Where he's like, oh, you're fired, bitch. And then Audrey, she quits. Working for Mr. Sexual Harassment. He's like, you'll never make it anywhere in this town because you're a woman. Then Jean Reno, he leaves off. He's like, I gotta get back to France. He steals Hank Azaria's footage of all the baby Zillas and whatnot. So that's the end of the movie. But then the camera pans to Madison Square Garden. There's one egg left. Sequel, baby. They're setting one up. Sequel doesn't come. Movie's over. The end. Burnsy, you know this. I know this. There was an animated series. That came after the movie. And you know what? The animated series, it's better than this movie. At least from my memory it is. The last egg hatches, and it's born, and it imprints on Matthew Broderick. Thinks Matthew Broderick's his mom, so it imprints on him. And basically, Matthew Broderick uses Godzilla to fight other monsters, which is what this movie should have been. But yeah, every episode he fought a different monster. So that was pretty cool. I think it ran for maybe 2 seasons, or something like 26 episodes or something. I'm not sure. Burnsy, you know. I was Drunk Explained. Godzilla, 1998. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought of this. As always, give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know if you have any ideas for future Drunk Explains. I got a whole list of things I got ideas for. I'm gonna do Jaws 4 eventually. That's like one I really wanna hammer that one home. It's one of the worst things ever, but it's great. I'm at BadTracy01 on literally everything. Go check out my Stardust. I got a bunch of reactions there. And you can follow us and everything we do at Punk Rock Blues on Twitter and Instagram. And you can pledge to our Patreon at patreon.com/punkrockblues. Kurt's like, you just joined up. Burnsy, you're a patron. Good on you guys. Thanks for that. Maybe there's other stuff I wanted to say, but who knows. I'm a little bit drunk, so I'm going to end this right now. Bye.